Hey guys, welcome to my tree tutorial. So in this video I'm going to show you guys 5 custom tree designs that I use fairly often. So the first one we're going to be doing is a regular oak tree. I use diamond blocks of course because it makes smoothing much easier because I can see the edge of the blocks. And I start by just sprawling out some roots and then bringing the trunk up, leaning it slightly to the side for a more natural look. Then I begin on the branches. For the branches I'm just kind of randomly placing blocks. I don't want to do anything too precise because I want it to be super natural, so I want them to be up and down and to all the sides and kind of all over the place. Once I'm happy with my branch positions, I'm then going to change out the diamond blocks into the full oak logs. The ID for that is going to be 1712. After this, I can begin my leaf placement. First, I place some glass blocks so I can change them into sea lanterns. You can skip this step if you want, it's not super important. After that, I'm going to get my brush set up. I'm going to use the ID 1812 for my leaves because these are the oak leaves that don't decay. I start off with a size of 2, but then I switch to a brush size of 1 for more precision because this is of course a very small tree. I always mask my brush to air so that I don't destroy my branches. And once I've got the shape that I want, I just replace with air. I use 40% air in this so that it kind of gives a more natural effect. It looks like birds could fly through it. After this, I go through by hand and kind of round out some spots, smoothing it where I feel it would be appropriate. I could do the smoothing step for a very long time to get it to the exact shape that I wanted, but in the interest of you guys not watching me smooth for 5 minutes, I have decided to limit the amount of smoothing that I've done to this tree. Alright, so here's our oak tree. I hope you guys like it. Let's move on to our next design. Alright guys, so for our next tree we're going to be doing an alpine tree. So we're actually going to use no worldedit in this one. For the base of the tree, we do a 2x2 block area and then just drag out a couple of roots. Nothing too big, it's not as much as oak trees. These trees really don't have very many roots. You don't even have to do any if you don't want to. Alright, so once we've dragged up our trunk, kind of staggering the 2x2 trunk so that we're left with only one block, we then change the diamonds into our spruce logs. The ID for this is going to be 1713. After this, we want to take our oak leaves and start kind of layering them on, doing larger branches at the bottom and then getting smaller as we work our way up. I'm going to be layering them fairly carefully and closely to each other, making the ends sag just a little bit because of course they're larger and heavier, and as we get closer to the top they'll sag less and less because they're not as large. I'm making sure to leave spaces between each branch on the trunk so that you can see all the way through it. This will make it look much more natural. As you can see, as I am getting closer to the top, I'm doing slightly smaller branches. Once I get some branches on there, you can see that I needed to make some adjustments with the height of my tree in order to get the scale correct. When you're customizing your own tree, don't be afraid to do this. You can adjust whichever way you need, and you can even do these trees much taller, much wider trunks, or much smaller. It's really up to you. You can see as I get to the top, I just place 2 leaf blocks to kind of finish it off, and some 1x1 branches. And then I add some thicker branches on the bottom, and kind of finalize, trim up the branches that I've placed, and we get our final look of our alpine tree. I hope you guys like this design. Alpine forests are really pretty in Minecraft builds. Alright, let's move on to the next tree. Okay guys, so for our next tree, we're going to be doing double palm trees. So I start by dragging the trunk up just as normal. I'm not actually doing any roots on this one, just a slightly thicker base. And I kind of lean both of the trunks over just a little bit, just like palm trees kind of do on the beach. They just lean a little bit and sway with the wind. So I try to really get that effect in the chunks that I'm doing. Once I've done that, I change the diamond block out with the jungle logs, full-sided of course, and then I began on the leaves. Now the leaves for palm trees are often a bit of a challenge for a lot of builders. A lot of people like to do them flat, but if you actually Google a picture of a palm tree, it's kind of like they have a ball of leaves on top of them. That's just like a bunch of ferns just stacking on top of each other and swaying in the wind. So what I try to do is I stagger my leaves on every side, and I make sure to do some that are pointing up, some that are down more, some on different angles, so there's more than just like 4 leaves, or 4 or 6 leaves, like a lot of people do, just all facing in one direction. I try to really get a ball. After this, I decide to place a few coconuts. For this I use Minecraft cocoa beans and just bone meal them. If you don't want to do this, you could also just use some clay or wool and get the same effect. Even soul sand I've seen some people use, and that gives a pretty cool texture as well. Once I'm done the first tree, I move on to my second one. So the same idea with the leaves, but this one's just a little bit smaller. So you can see that I'm staircasing the leaves to either side and then just sticking a couple of leaf branches kind of up in various directions, and it takes me a little while to get the shape correct, but I get it eventually, and I think that they turned out fairly nice. I of course put coconuts on both trees, and then I am finished. These are some pretty quick trees to do, and it will definitely be a good way to spice up your beach or jungle. Alright, let's move on to our next design. Alright guys, so for our last clip, we're going to be doing 2 types of evergreen trees right next to each other to kind of contrast the difference between them. So one of them is going to be a tree that you would kind of find in front of a house, one that's well taken care of or trimmed, and the other one is going to be something you would find in a snowy forest. So for the first one, we did a trunk that is straight up, and we're going to be layering the leaves on vertically, not leaving any space to see the trunk. So it's going to give kind of a rounded oval shape that's facing up, and just a slight little spike at the top where we have about 3 leaf blocks on top of the final log, 3 or 4. So then after we're kind of just shaping around, getting it the proper round. Now we don't want it to be perfect, so I do go around and kind of punch some leaves and make sure it still does look very natural. Once we've got the spruce leaves in place, I replace them with partly spruce, partly birch leaves, just to give kind of a cool effect. You can do this in all of the other trees too. You don't have to use one type of leaf in any of your trees. I quite enjoy using many different types. It gives kind of a cool effect and some nice colors. Once this is done, I start on the next tree. So for this one, we're going to be layering the leaves on, very similar to our Alpine Tree. So because it's leaning, we do longer in the back side and kind of shorter branches towards the side that it's leaning on. We stagger them and make sure we can see the trunk through in different parts. It kind of looks rough and ragged next to the other one. And after that, we place some snow on the branches to give it that look like it's been in a snowy forest for wintertime tree. And of course, the branches are all kind of facing downward because it is weighed down a little bit with the snow. Alright, here's our final 2 tree designs. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.